One of the simplest needs shared by all human beings is food. Furthermore, food is something that we most easily share with one another. We put meals on the table for ourselves and our families. We invite guests. We have special celebratory meals at birthdays and on holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. We know not only how to keep body and soul together with nourishing food, we also know how to make food an occasion for human togetherness and a joy. So why is it so often difficult to feed the stranger or the down and out? Most of us do not associate our meal times with the hungry that we might meet on a street. Hence, I suspect we find the need for food outside our own planned meals awkward. We are unsure of ourselves, and we often end up walking by or giving a bit of change. But what does it mean to actually feed the hungry, or better, to share our food with the hungry? I would like to answer this question on 3 levels. First, while it is not a bad thing to give some change to somebody who is obviously in need, what is often missing is a bit of ourselves. Years ago, a friend of mine came to Canada to speak at a conference. She went for a walk in the downtown area and met a man begging money for coffee. She explained that she had no Canadian money with her, but began to chat with him. They chatted for 10 minutes, and then, as we wealthy people can do, she invited the man into a restaurant where she used a credit card to buy him a cup of coffee and something to eat. Her comment later struck me deeply. "You," she said, "have some very interesting people on your streets here. You should get to know them." Giving a cup of coffee is different than sharing a cup of coffee. Chatting with somebody who is down and out is different than giving change without a word. She encountered not a beggar, with all the derogatory connotations of that word, but a person in need, and she responded the way one might imagine Jesus doing. Second, I am quite sure that some, or maybe many of you, would not be comfortable stopping and spending time with some of the people on our streets. Indeed, I do not recommend it unless you are in a situation where you feel safe. My mother was very wary of street people, but she surprised me some time before she died by showing me a picture of a child and her family in a very poor part of Africa. My mother had been supporting this child for over 10 years and wanted to make sure that when she died, we, her family, would continue to help this child until she was an adult. My mother also said, "I volunteered to pay a certain amount each month so that this child would have enough to eat and would be able to go to school, because I wanted to feed her mind as well. But when I received the first picture of this child, I wrote to the priests who sponsored this charity to ask about her family. Were they getting enough to eat, and did they have any hope for the future?" Very simply, my mother doubled her contribution in order to ensure that the family would be secure, and she fed the hunger both of the body and of the mind through her kindness. Now lastly, I would like to point out that sharing one's table with others is often a profound mark of friendship and hospitality. We invite those we trust and love to our table. We share meals, especially celebratory ones, with those we love and feel safe with. Learning to love the poor in whatever way we can in the name of Jesus is one of the ways that we discover this amazing incarnate God of ours. He is in our midst. He is almost unrecognizable because while we are looking for the spectacular from God, Jesus is quietly living in the hearts of the poor and those who are willing to share themselves with the poor. Food and table fellowship are such basic aspects of human communion as moments of sharing, not condescending charity. In nourishing others, we find that we are also nourished. In a solidarity with, an empathy for, a willingness to learn from the poor, the marginalized, the outcast, the lonely. As in table fellowship with Jesus, we can become one with our brothers and sisters who maybe did not have the luck we have had, or maybe even squandered it, but who are now in need and have little more to share than themselves. I firmly believe that God puts these people into our lives both to show us the face of God and to draw God out from our hard hearts. And so I conclude by inviting you to reflect on the meals that Mary prepared for Jesus and her family, or the times family and friends gathered for special occasions, or perhaps what Jesus must have learned from the generosity of his mother to those in need. If much of what we human beings are comes from our upbringing, does it not make sense to think of what Jesus learned from his mother, whom we now call our Mother of Perpetual Help? Similarly, as so much of our Christian life begins at home, let us make them homes of Christian welcome and hospitality for family, friends, the poor, the needy. And then we shall discover the friends of Jesus.